Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are. We are now ready for our fourth day of the conference, and this day will be special because, as I told you in the opening speech, teams participate in different projects, and this is one of them called Impetus. And we have devoted the whole day to give you more details of the project. And the one that will chair this is the consortium manager, Joe Gorman. He works with SINTEF, which is the consortium leader of this project. And his background is software engineering in his education in different universities, but he's probably most known for his work at the European Commission as a project officer, and he's also teaching in Norway and learning people or experts how do they write a proposal for getting research funding from the European Commission. I have known now Joe for the 1.5 years or almost 2 years, no, one and a half, doing this project. And Joe is a very dedicated and passionate project leader. He gets people to do their work, but he also has a warm heart for everybody. And his goal, the way I see it, is to make this project successful. So Joe, with those opening words, please, you have the whole day to share your experts in the Impetus project. Good luck, and the floor is yours.
So thank you very much indeed, Harold, for those kind introductory words. I would like to say that from my side, the Impetus project very much appreciates the opportunity that TIEMS gives us to present our results here to a wider audience and hopefully get some feedback from that process. Impetus is a Horizon 2020 project from the European Commission, and maybe some of the international audience don't know so much about what does that mean. What is a Horizon 2020 project? Well, Horizon 2020 is the name of a research and innovation program funded by the European Commission. When it started, which is about 7 years ago, it was the biggest research and innovation program in the world. It is now superseded by something called Horizon Europe, which is essentially a continuation of Horizon 2020. And that is now the biggest research and innovation program in the world, with something like 900 billion euro of funding over 6 or 7 years. So Impetus is a research and innovation project within this program. And the way the program is built up, it encourages organizations to form consortia. And in the case of Impetus, it's a consortium with 17 different partners. And I think it's maybe worth I'll just show a slide to show the names of the partners to give you some idea of essentially the breadth and types of partners that we have, which is the way these programs work. So I just want to emphasize this, that this Horizon 2020 is based on cooperation across different dimensions. Cooperation in an interdisciplinary way, people with different technical backgrounds and expertise, but also different kinds of organizations. So we have research academic organizations, we have industrial organizations producing products, we have NGOs giving a different perspective as well. And finally, we have cities who, and you'll hear about this more in the course of the day, who are, as it were, the trial users of what we're trying to develop and giving us feedback. I should mention that it's extremely competitive to get funding. So for us to even have started this project was in itself a big achievement. The project started in September last year. It will continue until February of 2023. And I would like to say that I feel that the project reached a major turning point last month, because last month we all, for the first time, because of COVID, physically came together in Oslo. And not only did we have a meeting, but we started to do some on the street, as I call it, real trials of the technologies that we did. And you'll hear more about that in some of the presentations today. So it was a turning point, both in terms of people meeting each other, but also in terms of the work takes on a new dimension when you start to actually try things out. For me, though, perhaps the most important part of that was the team building aspect. So here we all are, well, not all of us, but a key subset of us in the City Hall in Oslo. And just a few weeks later, we went to Padova in Italy, where we essentially repeated and extended the trials that we were doing in Oslo. And the team building was even nicer, or even not nicer, deeper, getting to know each other even better. And here's how things look in Padova after our team dinner. So what are you going to hear about today? Well, you're going to have 12 presentations. So you're going to need some stamina, but I think you'll be kept interested by all of them. The presentations cover different dimensions of the work that we're doing. So we'll start with an overview to give you the context, what the project's trying to do and so on. Then we'll look at various different dimensions. What does resilience mean? What does smart cities mean? Because this is topics in our project. The importance of ethics and data privacy. How do we deal with those? What technologies can be used for some of those? And then rather a lot of presentations on the technology that we're developing and how it works. And also this thing I was saying about the trials in these cities, what happened when we did that, give you an idea of the achievements that we had there. I just want to say from the practicalities point of view that each slot is allocated 25 minutes. The idea is that the presenters will use roughly 20 minutes of that, and we leave 5 minutes for questions, and we'll take the questions immediately after each of the presentations. And the way you have to present your questions is to write it in the chat. I'll monitor that. If I see that several people are asking about the same thing, I'll try and merge them into one question. Okay, I don't see any questions, so I think we should just start in that case. And the first session will be from my colleague from SINTEF, Matthieu Branlat, and he's going to give us an overview of the key results that are coming out of the project. So please, Matthieu, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Joe. Good morning, everybody. Let me start with screen sharing. Okay, so indeed, I work with Joe at SINTEF Digital in Trondheim, Norway, and I'm also the technical manager for the project Impetus that we are focusing on today. So what I'll do today for this session is actually to go through the key results of the project, and by doing that, basically using that to give you an overview what the project is about. Joe has mentioned we have this consortium, so I won't spend time on that. So what are the main objectives of the project? So first of all, Joe mentioned it's a European funded project. So it answered a specific call a couple of years ago, or was prepared a couple of years ago. And the call was about specifically the improvement of security of public spaces in smart cities. So our vision around that question is really to try to be at the intersection of these different spheres that you see, or discs that you see on the screen, which is to take into consideration, yes, the technology as one of the main drivers for potentially improving urban safety in smart city, but also really spend a lot of effort on understanding the impact of how such solutions can be deployed and what happens basically when they are deployed. By impact, I mean, for example, the kind of transformations that occur in the processes of producing safety in public spaces. So, for example, how the operations are transformed by the use of particular technology, whether it's advanced or not particularly advanced. But also the ethical and legal questions that arise, questions around data privacy, for example. So there are basic questions in a sense that drive our project. First of all, do these advanced technology indeed improve the management of security events, that detection, for example? Do we detect events faster? Can we respond in more efficient ways through these advanced technologies? As I was mentioning, do they affect the processes that are used in day-to-day operations or in the context of particular events? Are there ethical, legal issues that we need to ensure are safeguarded, handled correctly when we design such technology, when we deploy such technology? And also, I didn't mention that, but if we deploy, for example, additional sensors throughout the city, and use them in large technical systems, do they create new risks, both in terms of cybersecurity, in terms of the reliance on this information infrastructure, and potentially over-reliance? So do they create new risks, and how can we address those new risks? So to be at the intersection of these different disks, of course, we will produce in the project in the course of 2.5 years many different kinds of results in the first place. Some have to do with very specific tools, I would say, that corresponds to specific capabilities that might improve, for example, detection of events, or that might improve the intervention associated with an event, but also things that organizations can do in preparedness or in learning phases around simulation and analysis of associated with potential security events. But there's also, besides that, those specific capabilities, there's also the need, in order to implement that kind of smart city vision, to integrate those tools in a meaningful way. And so we are producing also a platform. That platform basically creates both technical integration, but also a logical integration, a functional integration of these different capabilities. And so finally, I was mentioning all of those sort of questions that arise from the use of this technology. And we are addressing them through what we call initially frameworks, but basically corresponds to guides for practitioners, for end users, to support the deployment and the use of this technology. So guides around operations, around ethics and data privacy, and around cybersecurity. So my presentation today basically will be to go through these different kinds of results and give some examples and some information, but there will be much more information, and I'll pass on that for the sake of time. I'll pass on that aspect, but basically just to say that there are things happening at the intersection of these different circles that have particular questions and then interests associated. So an overview of the results: we have different specific technological capabilities which are integrated through a platform so that they can be usable through a single or maybe several interfaces, but that group basically different capabilities, and basically the platform allows to share data between different capabilities. There are the practitioners guides that basically provide various kinds of advice for various kinds of stakeholders, do's and don'ts, for example, some reference material, and potentially some training material, some potential tools. So some of those things are still being decided. And finally, one important result based especially on the pilots that you will hear about today, but also on another mechanism that I won't go into details, but there will be a specific presentation about, which we call COSEC, which is a network associated with the project. So those types of mechanisms are for us a way to share lessons learned from the project, and so that's a major result in itself, with the idea of basically informing other projects, informing adopters, policymakers ultimately. But that's an important result. I'll focus more on the first two during this presentation. So the tools, we have different kinds of capabilities basically that are provided by specific partners. Joe mentioned, showed the consortium. So different partners have brought to the project different kinds of capabilities, and those correspond to basically different moments in the general management chain associated with public safety or the management of security events. Some of them have more to do with preparedness. Some of them have more to do with detection. But even in this category of detection, for example, we will have to separate tools that are really aimed at improving real-time detection, that the kind of detection that would be done in a security operations center by security operators, from detection which is more associated with intelligence type agents. So there are different kinds here that we are referring to. So for example, the social media detection is more associated with intelligence operators. And then there are other types of tools, as you can see here, like for example, response optimization has to do with how through simulation, for example, we can better understand how to prepare for and how to basically create guidelines for responding to events. During the course of this day, you will have the ones with the stars there are tools for which you will have specific sessions. So if you're interested in those tools, check the program, and you will have later in the day much more detail than I will go through in this particular presentation. But I'll go through very quickly. I'll go through some of those tools, just some of them, not all of them. The first one, as an example, is the social media detection tool. Basically, it is using natural language processing and artificial intelligence in order to detect different forms of text of interest for example, intelligence operators or for law enforcement agencies. And so and a typical application would be the detection of hate speech, and so it does, around that kind of detection, it does a number of types of analysis that can be of great interest for law enforcement agencies, such as the detection of trends, for example, to detect that there are some evolution in the hate speech at a given time on social media. But also aspects like of network analysis to understand the influence of particular members of the network, or how particular speech can spread, etc. So much more detail in a specific presentation later from our partners in SICT. Another very different kind of tool is what we've called a physical threat intelligence tool. This tool is essentially a big data analysis tool, which is using a variety of data that are available in the city in order to detect also what's a norm, or what are so what are the trends, or what are particular events, surprising events. So for example, for the moment, we've run our partners Chini have run experiments using air pollution data, traffic data, essentially, and basically by gathering large amounts of data around those sensors that captured this kind of data, and analyzing across, basically are able to generate trends and to detect particular surprising events. So the goal is basically to leverage all the sensor data that is used around this, that is gathered around the city, to detect such trends and such events. Another kind of tool, which is more, in this case, it's more of a real-time analysis tool, a detection tool. Our partners in Université de Nîmes and IMT in France have basically started developing this air analysis tool to detect chemical and biological particles in the air. So the goal, I mean, for them, the difficulty is that this is not a very mature type of capability. So it's a more experimental tool at this point, and they are making progress based on expertise they had on water analysis. And so they're trying to basically replicate a general process that they did around water successfully in order to do it for the air. This is one that I'll go very quickly on, because there will be a specific presentation. This weapon detection tool, as you can see from the images, is basically a tool that is using AI to analyze images from CCTV and identify objects of interest. In this case, weapons. It's very, at this point, it's very focused on the detection of weapons, handheld the devices of different sizes and type. And then I'll finish with this particular tool, which is of a very different nature, which is what we have called the human-computer interaction tool. This tool is aimed more at a supervisor, for example, in a security operations center, with the goal of basically trying to measure or to analyze in real time workload, cognitive workload of the and stress level and those kinds of measures of the operators, in order to identify basically whether some adjustments have to be done relative to the team. So, for example, realizing that there is a particular operator that is overworked and that could be replaced for a moment. So we'll see how this particular tool can be used for training purposes in operational environments. So we have been working on figuring out those kinds of questions. So those kinds of tools basically now aim to be integrated in a platform. As I was mentioning, there are different aspects of integration. One of them is the technical integration, plugging things together and making it work, which has been a large part of the work in this initial year of the project. But another part of the integration is really how different pieces of information can inform a situation in a meaningful way, and for example, allow operators to better detect or better make sense of a situation that is unfolding. So as I was sort of hinting at, what we are trying to better understand, we're trying to better understand how to integrate, how to put together these different tools to help in the different phases of a particular event, for example, the detection, but also to potentially inform different kinds of threats, whether they are physical attacks or whether they are cyber attacks, or potentially a combination. That's also in that kind of situation where integrated tools of different nature can be particularly interesting. What we have done, and there will be also a presentation on the platform, so I'll go very quickly on that, but what we have done after some investigation was to decide to base our work on the open source platform developed by a previous European project called Snap4City. And so you can see a very early type of dashboard in the project, and this is because we are still at an early phase of that particular development, but it's a dashboard that is based on Snap4City, and that basically starts to put together in a single interface the different basically overviews from the different tools I mentioned. But this is part of an important part of the work that we have to do is to basically work on this interface and make it in a very meaningful way for operators to be supported in detection, sense making, and those kind of processes. And so the last type of tool that I will, or results, sorry, that I will discuss are the practitioner's guides I mentioned earlier. So with the idea that those is for the most part, but not only, they would be in the form of guidelines documents, basically that are to be read by users, stakeholders of Impetus solutions. Some of the material might be, for example, built for the public, so it's not just for users, but essentially the users. So I mentioned guidelines, but also some training material and some information, for example, tool information, so people can better use the different tools I mentioned previously. To give a bit more detail on the guides, sorry, the first one on the operations, we'll aim to, so all of these guides are in a more initial stage in terms of development. So we have started sort of defining the directions for those guides, but so that's why I'm mostly focusing on the objectives. Some content has been created, but it's in an initial stage, and they will be produced more towards the end of the project, or at least finalized towards the end of the project. But so when we talk about guides for operations, what we're talking about are basically understanding the need for new operational context, potential new changes in operational strategies, but also looking explicitly at what are the consequences of the use of those advanced technology on processes of sense making, on the resilience of operations as a whole, understanding also what kind of opportunities or what kind of barriers they create in the SOC processes in terms of, for example, the capacity to coordinate with other agencies, whether they are rescue agencies or intelligence agencies, for example. But also I mentioned before how to understand the risks of overdependence to technology and information infrastructure in particular, and the need to potentially understand the alternative ways of working. When we talk about ethics and data privacy, once again, the goal is really to focus on practical advice for ethical, legal, and data privacy issues. What we're targeting are various stakeholders and practitioners with responsibility for security operations. And what we want to develop here are basically a number of reports, surveys, guides, brochures, etc., material, to help basically non-specialists understand the ethical and legal aspects of the technology they're using, of the work they're doing, etc. And so finally, on the cybersecurity side, also the envisioned content is to cover both more theoretical aspects, but to a large degree, to the greater degree, practical guidelines, in part to foster a general mindset around cybersecurity, but also sometimes considering particular tools that can be used. One of our partners has a breach and attack simulation tool that could be part of a general toolkit for managing cybersecurity risks, and also concretely some training material for the different stakeholders around cybersecurity. I'll stop here. I think that was already a lot of information, and I welcome questions on this, what I presented.
Okay, thank you very much, Matthieu. You were exactly on time for the 20-minute slot. Congratulations with that. So, does anyone have questions?
Okay, I have a question. I'm not sure everybody sees it, so I will read it from Antonio Valente. Thank you for your question. In what way will it be possible to use the outputs of the project? So I will try to answer. Joe, please jump in if I say anything that's incorrect. But basically, you will have a variety of results, as I presented, with a variety of more direct usable or not. Some of the tools, for example, that I prepared are proprietary tools that require license, and so they might not be usable directly. Some of the tools or some of the technologies will be provided in more of an open way, so through open licenses. A lot of the guidelines are results that will be usable by anybody, will be public results. So you have a variety of situations. So it's a heterogeneous situation.
Maybe I could add something to that in the wider
Sure.
context of, I said at the beginning of the morning now that this is part of Horizon 2020, funded by the Commission. And of course, that program doesn't exist simply to fund researchers to make nice things. It exists hopefully to have a long-term impact on society in general and bring benefits. So the idea of this kind of project is that the results that emerge from it will be adopted on a wider basis. And not only Oslo and Padua would benefit from these, but in the future, others as well. Now, that doesn't mean to say that the technology providers in the project give away their results for free, but it is part of the duty of the project to encourage that in the longer term, the things will actually be taken into use and have a big impact. I should probably have made that clear in the beginning. When the project ends in 2023 in February, doesn't mean that the activities around encouraging adoption of the things that we produce ends in 2023. In fact, that's when it starts.
Just for a quick addition, there are many deliverables, so many reports that are generated throughout the life of the project. Not all of them will be public, but a wide number of them will be public and will be published when appropriate and when possible on the website. So if you follow the website, you will see also, you will get more information about the results and the outputs.
I also had a question for you, Matthieu, which is, you mentioned in the beginning that it was maybe 2 years ago or even more when we actually started to compose the project proposal. And I think it's clear from what you said that it's an ambitious project. Is it more or less ambitious than you thought when you wrote the first sentence 2 years ago?
It is significantly more ambitious. I think the idea on paper is simple. To this intersection of the three circles is a fairly simple concept, but in practice, it's very challenging because for example, we have to worry about very carefully about ethical issues when we're developing technology that will use public data. So that's part of the project in itself to do that, and it's of course can create some difficulties and delays, for example.
So thank you, Matthieu. So listen carefully, everyone. What Matthieu is telling everyone is that what we're doing is not easy, I think, is the message there. So thank you very much, Matthieu.
Yep, thank you for everybody's attention, and have a great day. Enjoy.
Yep.
Interesting.
Thanks, Matthieu. Then we move on to the next session, which is going to be from Jelena Radošević from Institute for Security Policies in Croatia. And she's going to tell us about some surveys we did about attitudes to all of these things in Europe. So please, the floor is yours now, Jelena.
Thank you, Joe, for this lovely introduction. I'm very happy to have this opportunity to present to you on behalf of the Institutes for Security Policies and all of the other project partners, something that we did in quite the beginning of the project, which is gather public opinions on ethical issues of smart city technologies. As was mentioned in previous presentation and by Joe, this is a project that's funded by the Program for Research and Innovation, and it is actually the goal to use innovation in the local communities, and we would like this use to improve the lives of local communities, and it would be used for long term. But what is quite important when introducing a novelty to the local community is to, of course, communicate with the local community and with the stakeholders that will use, hopefully, these results of the project. So we wanted to know what were the local conditions and what are the needs of the local communities, what are their opinions on the smart city, and are they worried about the ethical issues? Are they aware of those as well? So at the beginning of the project, we approached the stakeholders in 3 different formats. First, these were the focus groups with which we addressed the personnel, officials and managers in the city of Oslo and the city of Padova, our partner cities, and of course the emergency and security organizations. This was actually done in the whole world thanks to TIEMS as project partner. So in focus groups, these people, these officials and managers were able to discuss certain topics that we addressed. But here today, I would like to share with you the other 2 formats we used, and these were actually focused more on, approaching the general public, so the citizens. And what we did is we organized and conducted public perception survey and the web survey, which is still open to answers and opinions. So within this presentation, I would like to share with you the format itself, how we've conducted the surveys, the results we got, and how you could use the results in a project or in any kind of activity you wish to do in the local community. So first, the public perception survey. This was quite a longer survey. It took about 10 to 15 minutes for a person to answer all of the questions. And we were focused on the general perception of what do citizens know, want, need, or worry about regarding smart city solutions. And we've conducted the public perception survey by using the CATI method. This is computer-assisted telephone interviewing, and we've hired actually 5 different agencies from 5 different capitals in the European Union to conduct the survey on a sample of 500 citizens. So we not only approached the citizens of our partner cities, but also Madrid, Zagreb and Bucharest, which are cities that have had some experience with terrorist attacks and were used as some kind of baseline to compare the opinions from the citizens of Padova and Oslo with. This survey was carefully organized, so the answers are almost equally distributed per 4 age groups and gender-wise. So what we wanted to do is to determine, do citizens know what smart cities are? What is their opinion on the smart city technology in general? And are they thinking about or worried about the possibility of unethical use of smart city technologies? So I would like to share with you now the results, but also emphasize that it was of great importance for us to find out that involving local organizations into the analysis of the results was very important. So we've asked the cities of Padova and Oslo to comment on the results and give us an insight from the local perspective, which gave us more depth to understanding the situation in the local communities. So first, I would like to take you to the lovely Padova in Italy. And the results of the survey there showed that around 83% of the citizens of Padova are familiar with the concept of smart cities, which was a bit surprising for our partners from the city of Padova. And they commented that they're kind of skeptical about the citizens over the age 55 knowing what the smart cities are, but maybe they were kind of uncomfortable to admit that they do not. And we also asked the participants of the survey to see, to tell us what do they think, in which sector should the city invest the most capacities for the SC technology development. And in Padova, healthcare was marked as a very important sector. And this is, our partners explained, probably due to a lot of citizens working in the healthcare sector, as there is a really big important hospital in Padova, very well known. Also, they were surprised by the low opinion about investments in warning systems for air pollution and danger of floods, as these are actually dangers for the city of Padova. The citizens are not really worried about increasing level of digital skills needed for smart city services, and this was also commented by our partners, and that's kind of strange because they do believe that the older citizens will have trouble with managing everything that the apps for smart city service give. Yeah. As for the general perception of safety, it is quite okay. Around 65% of the citizens say that they think that Padova is quite a safe place to live in, and the safety level of security has improved. They had not so much experience with violation of privacy rights and identity thefts, only with the use of personal data for unnecessary or unwanted purposes. So we could conclude maybe because of that they're not concerned much about the misuse of personal information or the data collected by the smart city services. If we go north to the beautiful Oslo, we can see the situation is a bit different. So the familiarity of the concept of smart cities is just 50%, but when talking with our partners from Oslo, they told us that probably the citizens are not aware of the term smart city, but the city itself has been investing in smart city apps for more than a decade now, and has a lot of apps that enable citizens easier access to public services. They have apps for transport, for waste management, and so on. As for the necessity of use of smart city technologies in certain sectors, the citizens have marked public transportation very important, as well as warning systems for high air pollution and dangerous floods, which was also explained by our partners in Oslo, that Oslo is also prone to floods. And there are days with high air pollution in winter when the citizens are disallowed to drive their own cars due to pollution. The interest for investments in security is quite low. And we could say that this is because the citizens feel quite safe in Oslo. Their experience with violation of privacy rights and identity theft is much higher than in Padova, and the EU average we counted from the other 3 cities. And they're much more worried about the misuse of personal information and the data collected by the smart city services, which could be the result of their experience as well. So what I'd like to conclude this part with is that you can see that from the public perception survey, we as the consortium, but more importantly, the cities of Oslo and Padova, have been given some really important information on the steps to do maybe in communication with the local community, in conducting certain campaigns maybe, or to invest in some of the sectors which they maybe were not so aware of that were important for the citizens. So this is it from the public perception survey from me for now, but let's move on to another survey we are organizing, and would like to show you first a bit the survey itself, its content. So you can get to it if you click on our project page, which is impetus-project.eu. You go here to the survey, you can choose 3 different languages. We'll go to the English one, and I'll just describe shortly. So in the first page, you have a bit description of the project, and the most important thing from the ethical perspective for the project is this consent. You have to click that you are participating voluntarily to even go to the questions. So we start with the most important questions. Do you know what smart cities are? And for those who are not really sure or are not aware of the concept, we give a bit of education here in this short video. And then we go into more details. And this is the main difference between the public perception survey and the web survey. I would say that we go into the details for the tools, and we want to gather opinions about some tools that could be used in the smart city focused on security. Ensuring security in public spaces. So we asked the participants what did they think, how useful these tools could be. Then we raised the question of ethics and collecting data, and then we go back to the tools and ask them, do they worry about the data collected by these tools? So this is a bit of overview. So just to go back to the presentation, I'd like to share the results we've got so far. So we've collected 370 answers in the Italian version of the survey and 255 answers in the Norwegian version of the survey. These are probably not all citizens of Oslo and Padova, but for the purpose of this project and the simplicity, we've kind of did the analysis marking all Italian answers important for the city of Padova and all Norwegian answers important for the city of Oslo. So we see that the results are different than from the public perception survey when taking into account the familiarity of the concept. And here the citizens of Oslo, or the Norwegians, do know about smart cities much more than the public perception survey showed. And 30% of them know some details. The level of worry proves what the public perception survey showed. So the Norwegians are generally more worried about the misuse of collected data than the Italians. And this is something that continues to be shown throughout the analysis. The types of data they're most worried about are the movement through the cities. So this could be related to cameras with face recognition, but also the shopping activities, web search data. You can see here that the level of worry about the internet social media activities is not so high, just around 7%. But if you go to the tool of social media hate speech detection, you can see that the level of worry is quite distributed on the scale from 1 to 5, 5 being the most worried. And but the usefulness is still quite high, so they do think the tool is useful in both countries. What we will see then, that there is a high level of worry when a certain tool is collecting personal data, such as gun detection tools or face recognition cameras, but the worry is not, the level of worry is very low when it comes to tools that are not collecting personal data, such as microbe detection tool or computer programs enabling the police, ambulance, firefighters to arrive to the point of the detected incident of violence faster. And the last tool that we've examined is the detection of attempts by malicious users to access confidential government documents or systems, where the usefulness was graded much high, but the level of worry was more evenly distributed in the scale. So this is what we've got so far, but hereby I would like to take this opportunity to ask you to give us your opinion about certain tools of smart city technology regarding public safety. So please go to our webpage, impetus-project.eu, and use five minutes of your time, maybe in the following coffee break that will be after the presentation of Sandro Bologna, so we could get a more international perspective on the topic. Thank you very much. This was it for me. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. So me or my colleague, Krunoslav Katić, which is also here among us, will be happy to give you our answers.
Thank you very much, Jelena, also on time. So now I can say the right thing and say if you have questions, you put them in the Q&A, not in the chat. So I would ask a couple, Jelena. Yes. You did briefly say that sometimes the people in the cities in Oslo and Padova were a little bit surprised at some of the results. Was there anything you yourself, in looking and analysing all these things, where you thought the results of the survey were not at all what you would have expected, or was things pretty much what you would have guessed if you had been asked before?
Thank you for the question. I have to say that we've approached the survey quite open to any kind of answers. So maybe we have some opinions regarding Zagreb because this is where we live. But for Oslo and Padova, maybe I would say that yeah, the level of worry in Norway about the misuse being higher than in Padova, I would have kind of expected this. It makes sense, but it was really just a joy to explore the opinions and to summarize the conclusions of the analysis. And I'm looking forward what will happen next, because our web survey is still open, and also, if any of the partners or you have other comments, please just share.
Okay. And another thing I would ask you, Jelena, too, was about, or sorry, maybe I won't, because there's a question here that has appeared from Arthur. He says, has the Resilient Cities Network been approached for involvement in this project? I guess that's a wider question, perhaps, than just to you, Jelena, but maybe feel free if you want to say something.
I'm really thankful for all the partners that have been sharing the survey. One of the partners is also TIEMS. So I'm not aware if TIEMS has shared the link with the Resilient Cities Network, but maybe Harald can give us some info about this.
I think Sandro has an answer to that. I will cover that in the next, because I think we have been in contact with Resilient Cities Network. Could you confirm that, Sandro?
Yes, I will cover the topic of resilience in my presentation.
Okay. Then we'll take that then, Sandro. So in the meantime, I have another question for Jelena, and it's about age groups. You did mention a few times that some things about age. So my question is, do you think if you did this survey 5 or 10 years from now, when the people who are young now are getting older, do you think younger people have different attitudes to older people to all of this? Are they more or are they less skeptical to use of technology? Does any of the results from the survey give you any indications of that at all?
Well, maybe it's the mentality and the cultural background, because there is a difference between Europe's South and Europe's North. But I do believe that, of course, we will all gain more technological skills in the future, and the youngsters are now born with them somehow. But also the knowledge about the problems will get bigger. So hopefully the technology and the antivirus programs and projects such as Impetus will also develop a safety net for everything that could be happening in the future.
Okay, thank you then, Jelena.
Thank you, Jared.
I see no further questions, so I think the best thing then is to
Mm-hmm.
move on. We're actually 4 minutes ahead of the agenda. That's good. So
Joe,
yes,
there is Kruno with the raisins. I don't know if you can see raisins.
I can now, but it's not very easy on my screen to see. But anyway, Kruno, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Yeah, just to actually answer to this question, and then just to make a small comment. It is about the cultural diversity. So we were surprised with the results from Norway. For example, the most interesting thing for me was that their results were actually explained in the way that they have so many smart cities technologies, they are not even considering them smart city technologies anymore. So that's the thing. That's the funny thing about it. So that's also connected with your question. What's happening with the last 10 years. So this is all for them something completely usual and regular. They're not even considering this a smart city technology anymore. So that's something to bear in mind. Thanks.
So they even wonder why you're asking, I guess, is what you're saying. They think, what is this about? Yeah, good point, Kruno. Okay, in that case, I'm going to hand over to Sandro Bologna from TIEMS, and he's actually going to discuss what smart cities are and what means resilience in that context. So please, if you're ready, Sandro, please go ahead.
So, good morning, everybody. My presentation will be divided in two parts. That is for historical reason. The first part has to do with my research activities in the last 10 years about resilience and the smart city. And then the second part has to do with the work has been done inside the Impetus project. So resilience is the ability of a system, community, or society to resist, absorb, accommodate, adapt to, transform, and recover from the effect of an hazard. One thing that must be very clear from the beginning, resilience is different from reliability. To improve the reliability of the technology, it is not enough. Resilience cannot be achieved without significantly changing the way cities manage urban space with multiple stakeholders playing a role. So the human behavior is, and the organization is a very important component of resilience. And this includes the local government, decision makers, city officials and departments, central and provincial government, sector, civil society, non-government organization, and so on. So that is the best definition I know, and it is coming from the United Nations Officer for Disaster Risk Reduction, and there is a publication, Making Cities Sustainable and Resilient, 2019. Let's go, that is quite old, is more or less 20 years old when we started to talk about resilience, what resilience is, how resilience can be graphically represented. And now this original picture has been updated in different way, but the meaning is, it remains the same. So we have the system that is working correctly, then we have an event and we are not able to deal with this event, and the system go down, and then we could start the recovery, and it takes some time to do the recovery and to go back to the original level of the system. The point is we should agree on what is resilience for a community, or resilience for a city, or resilience for a smart city. As I said, we have not to confuse resilience with dependability. Resilience is much more, and it needs the application of complex system theory to understand what is the meaning and try to evaluate the resilience of the systems. Because communities made by many different organizations, financial system, educational, governing, utilities, public infrastructure, industries, and so on. And we have learned during the last 2 years with this COVID pandemic that it is quite difficult to recovery, because you have to recovery in a different systems, and the systems are partially independent, partially depending each other. So you have to apply this theory of a complex system, try to understand the whole community. That is really very important, and that is coming from a publication from NIST, that is a standard organization in the United States. It's very important because from one side we have the functions, and the other side we have the infrastructure that will support the function. And again, we have been doing experience during the last 2 years, at least in Italy. We started with this so-called teaching via digital platforms. So students were not allowed to go to school, and they were invited to follow lessons on digital platform. But to do that, that is a function, education. To do that, you need a net that working correctly. And unfortunately, this was not always the case. So the requirements to the different infrastructure are coming from the functions you want to realize. And as I said, a smart city is made of different subsystems, and each subsystems, normally the organization is so-called silos organization. Each subsystem make a reference to different institutions. And for example, we have an institution that is in charge for the smart energy and trying to apply for energy saving, energy production. And we have another institution that is in charge for sustainable logistics. We have an institution that is in charge for smart mobility. We have an institution that is in charge for healthcare, very important, very important. Oh. And we have also an institution that is in charge for security operation for security, and they do the work from a security operations center, so-called SOHC. Now, what all these different institutions and the subsystem have in common? They have problems. They have problems with ethics, they have problems with the technology, they have a problem with the processes, they have a problem with the safety, they have a problem with the security. So what I want to say is that the problems are more or less the same. Because, for example, the healthcare institution, they use a lot of technology. The technology is working on the network, and if the network is not working, healthcare is not working. But the same apply with the security, with the people that is in charge for security. They take a lot of information from field. But if the net is not working, information is not coming to the security operations center, and they do not know the situation, how the situation is on field. So all these different institutions have the same problem, but they are in charge to different organizations and to different people. Which are the common problem? The common problem or the common figures is that all these institutions are made by technology, by organization, and people. And they work in a combination through processes. So just to work on technology is not enough if the organization is not improving. And if people is not well trained. So we have a problem of training, we have a problem of ethics with the people, we have a problem of organization, we have a problem with the technology. All these three problems has to be approached improving the process. And that is, now it is well recognized approach to resilience. So again, resilience doesn't mean to improve technology reliability, are two different things. Now, the second part of my presentation is about the work has been done inside and for the Impetus project. The Impetus project has been presented before, you know, the Impetus project, and I was really surprised because I have seen this picture was very much similar to the picture that have been developed in the area of resilience. So it's made by three pillars: the ethical pillars, the framework and process pillars, and the cybersecurity and technology pillars. So again, I like this picture because it shows that we have to work on all the three pillars, not only to one pillar. Now, what is COSAC? COSAC is a network that is working side to Impetus project. Well, let me explain. COSAC is much smaller than the Impetus project, but it is part of it. It is part of it, the Impetus project. And the goal of a COSAC is to get feedback from the stakeholders to define the requirements for the technology, the requirements for the ethical issues, the requirements for the processes, in a way that what Impetus is producing and is really of interest for the stakeholders. And so we have this picture. You see that there is a kind of a loop in between COSAC and Impetus. And so COSAC members can learn a little bit from the Impetus, and the Impetus can get inputs from COSAC members. And in addition to that, also the COSAC network aims to remain alive after the Impetus project. So that is a goal, that is let's hope that it will do in this way, but you know, my experience is that unfortunately many activities ends when a project ends. And with the COSAC network, the goal is also to make activities alive, maybe interest alive, maybe to continue to do research in this area. Now, how to build a COSAC community? That COSAC community has to have members from all the different aspects. They have so we have members from city manager or different municipalities. We have members for expert in Internet of Things and anyway in data analysis and so on. We have members that are expert in protection public spaces. We have members that are expert in data protection. We have members that are expert in cybersecurity. We have members that are expert in ethical issues. So the COSAC community is not, let's say, not a flat community made of people coming from the same field, but it is rather heterogeneous community because the Impetus project is a rather difficult project. It is, again, it is based looking through three different pillars with the three different organization and aspects. So we started beginning of 2021 to build this community. And these are the requirements coming from the description of the activities, the requirements that at the end of the project, the community must have something like more 40 members. They must have more 10 cities participating, and 5 groups, and 10 EU countries, and must organize at least 2 workshops and 2 webinars. What is the situation today? Very good situation. Actually, today we have 31 members. Here is 30, but the 30 was related to December 5, and today is December 9, and we have 31. We have more than 10 cities participating to the community. We have only 1 citizen group, that is the Padua Red Cross. We have more than 40 EU countries, and we have been participating to 1 workshop in Padua, and we have already organized 2 webinars. Let's see the webinars. The first webinar was on May 4th, 2021, and was about the use of information technology for the protection of public spaces. So it was this actually was an input from the Impetus project, mostly from Matthieu, that was asking to have this webinar, and there was a presentation of the Impetus project made by Matthieu and Joe, and there was a very interesting presentation for the city of Tampere in Finland. They are running a project that is called SURE, Smart Urban Security and Event Resilience, that is in some way very similar to Impetus. There was a presentation about this Snap for City platform, and this was very successful because now Snap for City platform is used as a framework for integrating all the different technologies inside Impetus. There was a presentation from Open and Agile Smart Cities organization, and 2 presentations from the project. One was about a tool about gun discovering, and another was about the application in the city of Oslo. The second webinar was on June 16, and this was promoted by ISP, by Jelena, that has been presenting just before me, and was dealing with ethical and legal issues. And we have had a presentation about the result of a survey. Was not at the level as today, but was at the level of how the survey was on June 16. And there was 2 presentations from COSAC members. One was dealing with the GDPR and all this problem with the data protection. You know, not all countries have this problem. One thing that I want to say is that the COSAC members are mostly from EU countries. There is also interest from different countries, but the different countries have different requirements, and that makes it difficult. GDPR is not popular in Asia or in the United States. Is going to be applied just now. And then we have the problem presentation about the ethical issue. Ethical issue, as been mentioned by Matthieu in the morning, is a very important issue. Is one of the three pillars of the Impetus project, because ethical means people, and there are a lot of concepts. You know, now the people that is working on the side of technology is proposing the use of a different kind of technology based on artificial intelligence. But how artificial intelligence deal with the topics of bias, unbiased, fairness, ethics, that is not clear, because, you know, people working with the technology, they say that is the best technology. Did you mention or did you pay attention to the problem of ethics? Oh, that is not me. That is a problem on other people. So this problem is a real issue. And,
excuse me, Sandro, we're running out of time, so if there's to be any time for questions, you need to wrap up in the next couple of minutes.
We have an application in Padua, has been already presented, and there is one point I want to mention, that COSAC members cannot access to all the deliverables from Impetus project. So COSAC has developed a specific platform, a COSAC platform, where you can find the COSAC members and the activities made by COSAC. And that is a final, that is an invitation to join COSAC. Because you know, we need a larger participation to COSAC. Thank you very much. That is the end of my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Sandro. Okay, I would like to ask you a question, Sandro. In the beginning of your presentation, you gave us a general idea of what resilience means, and I think the context here is that Impetus hopes to improve resilience in cities. But in the study of resilience, is there some way to, some scale to measure how resilient a city is? I mean, does Padua get a score of 3 out of 5 and Oslo gets a score of 4 out of 5? Is there some way to measure and assess the level of resilience that a city actually has, so that you know whether you've improved it or not? Or is it much more vague than that?
Yeah, there are suggestions. There are suggestions on how to measure resilience. Actually, the word to be used is assessment, is not measurement, because you know I'm a physicist, and in physics and mathematics, measuring something means something different than assessment. Anyway. There are suggestions on the assessment of resilience, and I can provide links just after this presentation. And of course, these models, they take in consideration all different aspects of resilience. That means process used, organization, skill of the people, training of the people, and technology, of course.
Okay, thank you, Sandro. Okay, in that case, I think it's time. We're 1 minute ahead of the agenda, and I think that gives us 1 more minute of coffee break. So we have a coffee break now until 11:45, and then when we come back, we'll hear from Nessie Kanich about privacy preserving challenges in urban safety. So see everyone again in 20 minutes at 11:45.